serious Redditors who had arranged marriage. Was sex awkward initially? How did you break the ice? I met my husband 3 months before my wedding. We went on a few dates before the wedding. How was the wedding night? Pretty nice. Since we'd both come directly from the wedding, we needed to shower. He took a shower first, then I did. It was about 2 AM before we finally got started. It wasn't awkward at all. A bit painful, but not really awkward. First orgasm came a few days later on a train in France for our honeymoon. 20 years later, we've got a house full of children to prove that the sex has been both enjoyable and plentiful. Male Muslim here. Sorry for wall of text, married less than a week ago, and want to share. Hopefully someone manages to see this. Like a lot of the stories here, I guess it was technically arranged but not really. It was a rainy day when my family and I went to go meet my now wife and family-in-law. It wasn't the bad kind of rainy though. The drizzle was light, the air was crisp, and even though there were clouds everywhere it felt kind of bright. When we were welcomed in and settled there were a few silly little things I noticed that actually perked me up a little. A Nintendo DS on their TV stand, books like Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings and Redwall in the shelves, a DuckTales DVD sitting on top of the player, the smell of fresh baked chocolate chip cookies wafting from the kitchen. Of course this didn't necessarily mean anything as the items could have belonged to anyone else in the home, but they were all things that spoke to me, and unfortunately they are things that many Muslims I met never seem to be into. If they weren't things that the girl I was about to meet was into, then at least there was *SOMEONE* in this place that I had a connection with. We were seated for what couldn't have been more than a minute or two before her mother got up to get some refreshments and I guess check on her. My mom got up to help, but I'm pretty sure it was because there was a chance she could scope out my wife. In the middle of our idle chit chat with her brother and father I overheard her being introduced to my mother in the kitchen. My heart rate immediately went up because I knew she was going to be out soon and then all eyes would be on us. My mom was the first one to appear with a tray of South Asian sweets, then her mom with some appetizers, samosas and spring rolls if you're wondering, and finally her with a plate of cookies. She was beautiful. I was surprised my jaw didn't hit the floor when she walked through the door. I had to practically peel my eyes away from her. Obviously I wanted to show that I'm a good Muslim and tried not to look at her for longer than would be appropriate, but I found myself looking at her every chance I could because she's so beautiful. After being grilled a bit the conversation switches to her and I'm ecstatic because I get a break and I can stare at her. Then we start getting into hobbies, likes, dislikes, and personality traits. They ask what I like to do in my free time. My response is a little vague because lots of video games isn't something they likely wanted to hear, but I do mention video games. Her mom groans that we would be a good match since she always has her face buried in her DS these days. We dive more into our personal hobbies, and I bet I'm growing a dumb smile on my face because it's crazy how much we have in common. Her mom says something along the lines of how she still spends most of her time watching Disney and Nickelodeon. She gets a little annoyed and says that she doesn't spend all her time watching those channels. When I pipe in and mention that that's all I ever really watch as well aside from something like The Walking Dead. She smiles and turns towards me with a cute little half sheepish smile on her face and we make real eye contact for the first time. It felt like an eternity and a millisecond all at once. We break it off, and I can feel the heat emanating from my face. I'll fast forward, since this is getting a little long. We get married. Our first moment of intimacy was probably after the wedding festivities had died down, and we didn't have to meet and greet a billion people. During our honeymoon we went to an outdoor ice skating rink. She had never been before, but I had, so I thought it might be fun for her to learn and me to teach. It's not very hard, and she got the hang of it pretty quickly, and we had a good time just skating with her holding onto my arm and chatting away. After a little bit we decide to sit on the benches at the side of the rink. I step away to get hot chocolates for us to sip while we relax. One of her friends had tipped me off beforehand that she really likes Christmas white peppermint drinks, so I made sure to get that and asked the guy to add extra whipped cream for her. I watched intently as she took her first sip and a smile drew across her face. I told her that I had heard that she really likes peppermint. She said that she did. I laughed and asked her if she also really likes whipped cream because it was all over her lips and nose. She giggled and rubbed her nose. I laughed and went back to people watching when she leaned over and kissed me on my cheek. I know a kiss on her cheek isn't much, but I absolutely melted and was a little speechless while she just giggled at the whipped cream on my cheek and said that it should be gone now. Not one to miss a cliche opportunity, I'll let her know that she missed a spot and leaned in for our first kiss. It wasn't awkward, it wasn't strange, it was just an amazing moment. We might have had an arranged marriage, but we also had the time to develop into a relationship. As for the 6, link. Edit, I love you too. 3, don't tell my wife. Edit 2, should mention that I got to talk to my wife for quite some time before we got married. Great, you made it to the end. Now smash that like button and subscribe for even more videos like this one.